How many of you guys know exactly what you're doing that's keeping you stuck, yet you still can't keep from doing it? You know you're a people pleaser. You know that you struggle saying no. You know that you struggle with rest. You know that you struggle with asking for help, of showing up for everyone and everyone all the time, of doing too much. You know these things about you, but somehow you cannot change them. And this is because insight alone doesn't create change. Insight alone does not create change. And that's what I want to talk about in today's life. So what do you believe you need to do to finally get the result you want, right? You may think that you need to understand yourself better. You may think that you need to read another book, another self-help book, another nervous system regulation book, another book on how to be more productive or whatever, right? You may think that you have to practice saying no, or that maybe you just need to rest more, right? Or maybe I just need to stop people pleasing or just make better choices. Listen to another podcast, learn how to set boundaries. But listen, instead of asking yourself, why am I like this? You have to start asking yourself, what do I do differently when the pattern gets activated? What do I do differently when the pattern gets activated? Because that's where you get pushed to choose differently. It's not in the portion of, I know I have to set better boundaries. I know I have to say no. I know I have to stop being a perfectionist. I know I have to rest more. I know I have to do all these things because we know that that's what we need to do. But the real test comes. The real test comes when the pattern gets activated. When someone asks you if you can do something for them. When you set a boundary and someone pushes that boundary, right? And someone pushes and somebody pushes that boundary, okay? The pattern is getting activated. So how are you going to respond to that? When your body is screaming at you to rest, how are you going to respond when that pattern gets activated? Are you going to listen to your body, or are you going to keep pushing? Are you going to figure out how you could do one more thing before the day is up, or cross off one more thing off your to-do list? Or are you going to honor your body? What are you going to do when you're working on something and you keep trying to make it perfect? Right? That pattern gets activated of perfectionism. Are you going to let what you've done be enough, or are you going to keep pushing and pushing and pushing to try to make it perfect? Again, when someone asks you to show up for them, you know you don't have the capacity. You know this because you're already irritable, you're already tired, you're done for the day. But the pattern gets activated. So are you going to say yes and disappoint yourself and what you and your body needs, or are you going to say no and honor yourself without feeling guilty? Without feeling guilty, because that guilt part is what gets us to move from knowing what we need to do, right? We know what we need to do. A lot of us know what we need to do. But that guilt, that resentment, that feeling of disappointing people overrides everything else. And then we're back at square one again. So What are you going to do differently when the pattern gets activated? Because that's when the true test comes. It's not in the knowing I have to set better boundaries, or I have to set boundaries. I have to say no. I have to rest. I have to stop showing up for everyone. I have to stop doing the most. I have to stop being everybody's go-to person. I need to take better care of myself. We know this. But the true test happens when the pattern gets activated. Once you have to choose differently, are you going to choose differently, or are you going to go back to the same old, same old? And this is where the true test comes, right? Because listen, you know that you have trouble saying no because you know that you have issues, or you know that your soft spot is disappointing people. I shouldn't say issues. You know that your soft spot is disappointing people. You don't want to disappoint people because you are a good person. You are an empathetic person. You're very compassionate. You're always there for everyone. You're the nurturer, the caretaker, the eldest daughter. You're the responsible one, the superwoman. You're the one who shows up for everyone, who's always there, remembers everybody's birthdays, remembers everybody's appointments, anniversaries, all the things. You're the one that everybody can count on, right? But when someone asks you to do something, what happens is your nervous system reacts to that. Because remember, your body does not forget. Your nervous system does not forget. That's why they say the body keeps the score. Your nervous system does not forget. So although you know better, and you know that you need to do better, your body reacts differently because your body is used to the old routine and it considers that to be safe. Your nervous system considers your routine, what, no matter how bad that is for you, how toxic it is for you, it recognizes that as safe because it's routine for your body. And your nervous system thrives on routine, even if it's not good for you, which is why it's so hard to know better, but it's harder to do better. We know what we're supposed to be doing, but it's so hard to do it because we're constantly fighting with our nervous system. It's like we want peace and ease, but our nervous system is looking at us like, oh, wait a second, this feels very uncomfortable. Saying no, disappointing people feels uncomfortable. Not being responsible feels uncomfortable. Delegating a task makes me feel like I'm not capable. Saying no disappoints people, lets people down, makes me feel guilty because I know I can help, so I should help. So instead you say yes. Instead you say yes when you want to say no. Because insight alone does not stop the pattern. Knowing better does not stop the pattern. Knowing better does not automatically make you choose better. Because the nervous system is a hell of a thing. It's a hell of a thing. Listen, the pattern isn't intellectual. If it was, we would solve this instantly, right? Logic, right? We would solve it instantly, but the pattern is emotional. It's behavioral. It's embodied. And emotions can be something that, you know, could be a little tricky to navigate. Because if it wasn't easy, if it was easy, and if it was logical, if it was black and white, it would be easy. Yes, it would be easy, but it's not. So listen, don't be hard on yourself because this is not easy work. This is we're trying to reverse patterns that have been going on for years, and for some of us decades. So it's gonna take time, it's gonna take practice, it's gonna take repetition, it's gonna take, you failing sometimes at this and you beating yourself up for it sometimes. But the key point here is to get back up trying, because repetition is what's going to beat this pattern. So, like I said, knowing something intellectually doesn't mean that you've integrated it into your life. Like, a lot of us know that we need to lose weight. Yes, we fall down and get back up again. Exactly. A lot of us know we need to lose weight. Look, I'm in perimenopause. I've gained weight. I know that I have to lose weight. And I know that one of the ways of me losing weight is to go to the gym, or to exercise at home, or to walk, or to, right? I know this. Do I do it all the time? I've gotten better. I've gotten better. In the beginning, it was hard as hell, because I came from not having, I was that girl who could eat anything and not gain any weight. Whoo, those days were fun. Oh, thank you. You're sweet. Like, those days were fun when you could eat whatever you want and not have to gain any weight. But, as you age, things change, your body changes. But what I'm trying to get here is, I know what I need to do to lose weight. Now, do I always do it? No. Intellectually, I know what I need to do. But that's not always the choice that I make, you know? So, I wanted to talk a little bit about understanding the pattern and not processing what created it, because this is where the juice comes in. This is the root of everything. This is the root of everything, right? Like, I became the responsible one because I learned I couldn't rely on other people. But that doesn't necessarily release the emotional charge around it, right? There's still a lot of grief there. There's still a lot of anger there, a lot of resentment, right? Maybe some shame and some loss. All of those emotions need somewhere to go. And this is, again, where the nervous system work comes in. All of these emotions need somewhere to go, because a lot of times the ones who are burnt out, dealing with chronic pain, chronic fatigue, autoimmune issues, we're the ones who have trouble speaking up. We're the ones who are people pleasers. We don't want to ruffle feathers. We are take chargers, overachievers, so we don't like to, burden people with our needs. And so we just take care of ourselves. And a lot of times we don't express how we're feeling. Those emotions need somewhere to go. Because, as I mentioned, there could be a lot of rage, anger, resentment, fear, shame, issues of self-worth, abandonment issues sometimes, different things that could be happening. And those emotions need somewhere to go. And as I mentioned before, change happens through practice. Change happens through practice. And it's not always going to be perfect. You're not always going to get it right. You're not always going to get it right. But you have to keep trying, because practice is what's going to lead you to change. So what's going to happen is, you're going to need opportunities to notice the pattern, then pause. That pause is super important, because a lot of times what happens is, we don't pause, we just automatically react. So a lot of that magic happens in the pause. And in that pause is when you have that internal dialogue of, like, I know what happens. I already know what happens when I choose A, because I always choose A. So I already know what's going to happen when I choose A. So am I going to choose B this time and try something new? I don't know how this is going to make me feel. I don't know what I know what the outcome will be, but I know it's going to make me feel uncomfortable, is what I should say. So you really do know what it's going to make you feel like. It's going to feel uncomfortable. You're probably going to feel bad. You're probably going to feel like, oh my God, people think I'm a bad person. Guilt, regret, all the things, right? But you know what option A gives you, because you've done option A time and time again. You've done option A time and time again. And in that pause, you can decide, am I now going to do option B? As uncomfortable as option B is going to be, as many people that I'm going to disappoint, as guilty as it's going to make me feel, am I going to push through that discomfort while choosing B? Because I know that B is going to get me out of burnout. B is going to get me out of chronic fatigue. B is going to get me out of the chronic pain. B is what's going to put my autoimmune illness in remission. Because I'm no longer going to be abandoning myself. I'm going to be choosing me. No matter how many people get disappointed. As I mentioned, you're going to feel that discomfort. You're going to make a different choice. Experience that outcome. You're going to experience that outcome. And that's going to build self-trust. And that's what's going to let your nervous system know that everything's going to be okay. This new reality that you're trying to form is going to be okay. Is considered safe. So as you notice the pattern, the pause is the sweet sauce. It's that internal dialogue within that pause where you say, am I going to do what I've always done, or am I going to sit in the uncomfortableness of this and choose differently? Am I going to experience the outcome, right? Because once you choose differently, you have to experience that outcome, and that's going to be brand new for you. So it's going to feel uncomfortable. You're probably going to feel guilty. You're probably going to feel bad. You're going to have all the feelings. But that's what's going to build self-trust, because you're going to notice in time. You're going to notice in time that your energy is going to start coming back. Yes, definitely the fear of the unknown. You're going to notice that your energy is going to come back. You're going to notice that your cognitive, like your brain fog is going to start lifting. You're going to, oh my God, you're going to feel that possibility that all of us in that type of situation long for, is the energy to do the things that we love. Not having to worry about all the things that need to get done. Right? Allowing people to fend for themselves. Allowing people to figure things out on their own. Not having to be the one who always solves every single problem. Not being the problem solver, the fixer. Not having to be able to take care of everyone because people can finally take care of themselves. So I want to say is, listen, you don't think your way into a new way of living. You can't. I've tried it, trust me. You have to practice your way into it. And this is like a whole new, like once you start doing this, this becomes your whole new lifestyle. You are no longer the person who is that go-to person for everyone, because you start to train people. You have to train exactly. You have to train people to fend for themselves, to figure things out on their own, to not always call you, to not you being the their automatic response of, let me call this person because I know they have the answer. You can put your phone on do not disturb and not feel guilty. You don't have to answer every email right away. Not everything is urgency. Not everything is urgency. And you notice that your anxiety starts to quiet down, because not everything is pressing. Not everything needs to be answered right away. Not everything deserves a reply. Not everything needs your attention right now, this minute. So let's talk about a quick example here, right? Let's say that you've spent your entire life saying yes, which is probably true, right? You learn that you need boundaries, right? Easier said than done. So someone asks you, can you take this on? Your brain says no. But your body says, oh God, we're going to disappoint them, right? So you feel anxious, you feel guilty, you feel the pressure, you feel fearful, you feel all the things, right? So you say, sure. Then afterwards, immediately afterwards, you're like, why did I do that? Why? Why? Why did I do that again? I said I wasn't going to do it, but here we are again. I found myself in the same spot I always do. You find yourself in the same spot you always do. So listen, the problem isn't that you know you need boundaries, because you know you need boundaries. That's not the problem. The problem, you know what you know what you need. That's the easy part, is the awareness. You know what you need. You know. The missing piece is having the support while you learn to tolerate the discomfort of doing something different, because that discomfort is what's going to be the huge hurdle. It's going to feel like it's eating you alive. The discomfort of doing something different is where people need the support, because your brain is going to be telling you, oh my God, you're such a bad person. You know, you could help that person. You know how to do that quickly. It just takes 5 minutes. Who needs to rest? We'll rest when we're dead. Like, you could do one more thing. One more thing. It's just going to take 5 minutes out of your day. Meanwhile, you are done. You are exhausted. You are tapped out. But somehow you convince yourself, I'll just cross one more thing off the list so that tomorrow I have nothing to do. And tomorrow I could rest the whole day. And then tomorrow comes and you find something to do. Because rest feels so uncomfortable to you. You feel guilty resting. You feel like you're lazy when you rest, because you know that you could get so much done instead of resting. Meanwhile, you're burnt the hell out. You're exhausted. You're tapped out. You're hanging on by a tiny thread. But somehow you find more to do, because you don't know how to sit your ass still. You don't know how to sit still. Rest feels so uncomfortable to you. It feels so uncomfortable to you. You feel lazy. You feel guilty. You're like, I could be getting something done right now. So like I mentioned, you know what the issue is. You are highly aware. You are hyper aware. You see the pattern. But then it comes to understanding that pattern. Understanding why I developed that pattern and when I developed that pattern. And it always goes back to our childhood. Yes, it does. And a lot of people try to run from their childhood trauma, but that's where the healing lies. Because that's where we figure out why, and like, how did this develop? Why did it develop? Why am I a people pleaser? Why am I a perfectionist? Why am I an overachiever? Why is it that I can't say no? Why is it that I can't set a boundary? Why is it that I feel uncomfortable resting? Why is it that I feel uncomfortable asking for help? Why is it that I feel that I need to solve everybody's problems and fix everybody's problems? Why is it that I'm this superwoman that knows how to figure everything out? It always goes back into time. Then there's the processing piece, right? Where it's like you allow yourself to actually feel and work through what's underneath all of that. And this is hard, because a lot of us run from this. It's so uncomfortable, and it triggers us, and it brings up a lot of emotions that a lot of us are very uncomfortable feeling. And it can bring up some traumatic events from our past. But again, this is where the magic lies. Allowing yourself to feel and work through what's underneath all of these patterns is where you're going to find your healing. Then there's the regulation piece, because you want to stay present when this discomfort arises. You want to stay present, because I was one of those people that I would disassociate all the time. Like, there's parts of my childhood I don't even remember because I disassociated, I detached from it. And it's not until now that I'm starting to have a huge remembering of all the things, right? Because I've integrated back into my body, and I've connected back into my body, where my body's telling me all these things. Like, it's reminding me of all the things that have happened, right? So it's you have to learn to stay present when this discomfort arises and not run from it, because again, where the magic lies. Then you have to practice, which is where you start to make a different choice. Even through the discomfort, you start to make a different choice. Again, really important, because this is where your new way of living starts. Because we already know what happens when you choose A. You've been choosing A all your life. We know what the outcome is with choosing A. We know we should be choosing B, but we still choose A. Why? It's comfortable. Even though we're burnt out, we're tired, we're exhausted, we're tapped out. Some of us are dealing with chronic pain, autoimmune issues, and more. But we still choose A, because why? It's comfortable. Even though we know we should be choosing B. Exactly. No growth and comfort. So once you start integrating, the new choice begins to feel more natural. Again, repetition. We spoke about this, right? Repetition is what's going to create your new reality. And it's what's going to get you out of the burnout. It's going to get you out of the chronic pain, the chronic fatigue, and the side effects of all these autoimmune illnesses. And then that's going to build the self-trust, where you're going to start to feel safe. You're going to signal to your nervous system that these new choices, this new lifestyle that you've integrated, is safe. It feels good. It starts to feel good to your body. You start to feel more confident. You start to, sit in the comfortability, or if that's a word, of rest, of slowing down, of being more present in your life, of enjoying the beautiful things out of life, of not worrying so much. I just worked with a client, and she was burnt out, dealing with autoimmune issues, health issues, and things. And we got her out of the burnout. She finally learned to slow down. And now she's realizing that the job that she's loved for so long has been contributing to her burnout. So now she's actually decided to go part-time in the job, and eventually she's going to resign, because she knows that it's not conducive to this new lifestyle of ease and peace that she wants to cultivate. So now she's in this season where she's trying to figure out, now, what is it that I have to do with my life? What sort of career choice do I make that's going to be in alignment with where I am in my life right now? Where I don't want to be rushing. I don't want to be the go-to person. I don't want to have to problem solve all the time. I don't want to be doing all the things. I want things to be easy. I want things to be slow now, because my nervous system has shifted. It has shifted to parasympathetic, which is ease, slow. It's not on high alert anymore. It's not, my cortisol levels are not through the roof anymore. So it brings on this like tidal wave of change, this domino effect of change. Like, you change, the burnout ends, but now how do we align the rest of our lives to stay where we're no longer, to stay in the place where we're not dealing with the burnout again, and it doesn't resurface. We could stay in that peace and that ease. So this is exactly why I created the Return to Self program. This is the program that I wish I had when I was going through my burnout and my chronic pain journey. It's not another program designed to give you more information and to give you more things to do, because I already know that you're burnt out, and I already know that you're tapped out, and I already know that your capacity is at a negative. which is why sometimes a lot of us join these programs or these courses and it's like, oh my God, more things to do, but I'm already so tired, I'm already so tapped out. And this keeps that in mind because it understands the woman that needs this program, or man, right? It takes you from being burned out, stuck in survival mode, exhausted, people pleasing, over responsible, overachiever, superwoman, to giving you greater self awareness, emotional processing. Thank you, Jeff. It provides safety to your nervous system. It gives you self trust. It allows you to make more sustainable choices and a greater connection to yourself, and a softer, more peaceful way of living, which so many of us are after this. A lot of us are just so burnt out, especially in the United States. Like, it's just a lot of capitalism is a bitch. Like, it's just a lot of us are just so done. You know, we're just so done. So in the program, we're building your capacity to recognize what's happening and to be able to choose differently. Because again, making that choice is not easy. Making that choice is not easy. I'm on live. My son is knocking, but he can wait. Boundaries. The old me would have gotten up and opened the door. The old me would have gotten up and opened the door. What do you need? This time around, no, I'm on live, which he now knows you have to wait. Usually I send a text to the kids telling them when I'm coming on live, and I forgot to do that today, so that's why he didn't know. But anyway, yes, you have to take time for you. Because a lot of us have forgotten who we are in this cycle of burnout. It's like we look at ourselves in the mirror, we don't even recognize who we are anymore. We don't recognize the reflection that's looking back at us, because we don't take the time to be with ourselves, to like get to know ourselves, to see what is it that we like to do, what is it that we enjoy doing, not what they want to do, not what they enjoy doing, what do we want to do? Because we lose ourselves in being there for everyone and showing up for everyone. We lose ourselves in that. And it's like, no, what is it that you need? What is it that you want? Right? It's this, again, returning to yourself, which is why it's a return to self, you know? So you're going to identify what's actually keeping you stuck, explore the beliefs underneath those behaviors. Again, you have to understand why you do things and why you choose the things that you choose. There has to be a deep level of understanding there. Process the emotions you've learned to suppress for so long, because there's a lot there that needs to be released and excavated, right? Work with your nervous system, because it's imperative that your nervous system knows that you are safe while you're going through this process, so that it can give you that sense of okayness. Okay, we're going to do this. Okay, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. Examine boundaries and self-abandonment. Practice making different choices, as I said before, building that self-trust, which is hyper important. And then lastly, integrate those changes into your life so that you can begin having a lifestyle change that's conducive to where you want to be in life, right? Because at the end of the day, like, what happens when you leave the conversation and real life starts happening? When real life starts to happen is the true test. What are you going to do during that pause? What are you going to do during that pause? So look, if you've been collecting insight for years, you're still stuck, you listen to all the podcast episodes, you read all the books, you do all the research, you watch all the YouTube videos, you have a PhD in YouTube University. Google is like Your favorite thing. I don't want you to interpret it as a personal failure, because a lot of times we don't know what we don't know. We don't know what we don't know, right? But then there's times where we do know, right? Because through all that information gathering, we've learned our awareness is there. But just because the awareness is there doesn't mean that we're going to choose differently. And that's where a lot of people get stuck, in that choice. In that choice. I know that I need to do better, but I keep choosing the things that are no good for me. So how do I begin choosing the things that I know are going to lead me towards the path of healing? Right? Where it's going to get me out of burnout. It's going to get me out of the chronic fatigue. It's going to get me out of the chronic pain. It's going to get me out of the side effects that I'm having with these autoimmune illnesses. How do I make that choice and still signal to my nervous system and my body that I am safe? Because in that choice is where our body starts to flare up and our body starts to go on fire of like, oh no, I don't like this. This feels different. Nope. Even though it's good for you, your body is going to rebel, because your body, your nervous system loves patterns, even if those patterns are not good for you. Even if those patterns are not good for you, it will gravitate towards those patterns because that's what it considers to be safe, because that's what you've been doing all these years. So you have to retrain your nervous system and let it know that by choosing something else, which is actually good for you, is the safe route. But that's not easy to do. It's not easy to do. So you don't need more information. You need an experience of doing something different with support, repetition, and integration. So I wanted to mention that applications for the Return to Self program are now open through the 28th of August. The link is down below if you're interested, if this is calling to you, if this is speaking to you. It's for men and women who are dealing with burnout, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, or an autoimmune illness. They're ready to heal their trauma, step out of survival mode, and begin creating a softer and more sustainable life with 0 to significantly reduced symptoms. So if you spent years collecting and thinking, I know why I do this, so why can't I stop? I know why I do this, so why can't I stop? I want you to know something. I don't want you to have to shame yourself into changing, because that's not gonna help. You don't need more discipline, because we already know you're disciplined at being there for everybody else. You hella disciplined with that, but you keep abandoning yourself. And you don't need more information, because again, you already know what you need to be doing. The hard part is actually doing it. That's the work that we do inside of Return to Self. So again, insight is the beginning of change, but it's not the completion of it. I'm so glad this served you. Knowing what to do isn't the same as being able to do it. And again, you don't think your way into a new way of life, because if that was the case, everybody would be doing it. You practice your way into it, and then you're gonna stumble. That's why the support in the Return to Self program is so important. Link down below, link in bio. Applications close August 28th. So if you're a person who's dealing with burnout, chronic pain, chronic fatigue, or an autoimmune illness, one of those or all the above, and you're ready to step out of survival mode, you're ready to do something differently so that you can finally find peace and joy in your life, then I invite you to check out that link. And then I will see you in a couple of days for our next conversation. All right, until then, take care. Bye.